I've been eating myself. Written by Curses and Boons. I wouldn't call myself a cannibal. I mean, strictly speaking, I probably am, but I wouldn't call myself one. I don't have the desire to eat anybody else. I have never looked at somebody and had the urge to consume them. I mean, yeah, they probably taste pretty good, but I couldn't live with myself if I ate another human. Me, on the other hand, well, that's different. I'll get right into it. I've been eating parts of myself. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my body, so I can do what I please. However, I know I am hurting myself and will probably die. So I wanted to put this out there. Probably not as a warning, but I mean, I would recommend trying a piece of yourself. I mean, the succulent taste of the meat is to die for. I just know that I wasn't like this before. I guess it all started when I went to that church. I was traveling to a different town for a work trip. I worked as a salesperson for a meat packaging company, so I have to do a lot of traveling to get in contact with a lot of different farmers. This is all to say that I go to some pretty random places. It was on my most recent trip to a smaller farm when I stopped at a church. Now, I am a devout Christian, or I was. I had been raised in the faith, never knew anything different. So when I was out of town on a Sunday, I decided to stop by the nearest church that I could find. It looked like a normal church that you could find anywhere in the Bible Belt. One small room, building, wooden panelings. Probably use a little new paint. But it didn't strike me as a cult headquarters, just a normal church. Except for maybe the name, Church of His Holy Body. It was certainly strange, but not too different from the usual. The building was small, like I said. It consisted of only one room, containing only 6 pews in total. In hindsight, I didn't see a single crucifix anywhere in the building. Where the minister would usually present themselves, though, was a large, ornate metal box. It was made completely out of what I assumed to be iron, with deep grooves and designs carved on each side of the box. It reminded me of the pattern you would see on a beautifully marbled meat, with lines of fat and flesh weaving around each other to create a beautiful steak. Before I could question it any further, the priest of the church walked behind me. He was a big man and could have been a bodybuilder for all I knew. He promptly welcomed me and asked if I was a man of faith. I told him yes, and I was looking to attend a mass. And with that, he smiled and directed me to sit down. It was strange sitting in the church alone, with the priest in the front reading verses solemnly to me. But again, I didn't see any issue with this. It wasn't until the Eucharist that things became strange. He asked me to come to the front of the church to receive the sacrament, and I did. I presented my hands, as I usually did, to receive the bread, but the man shook his head. He told me that he preferred the method of directly placing the body into the mouths of the congregation. I had seen this done before and I didn't want to argue with his practice, so I simply listened. It was then that he reached into the iron box. I couldn't see what was inside, but it sounded a little wet, and when he grabbed a hold of it, before I could ask any questions, the priest took his hand and placed what he had onto my tongue, and I closed my mouth. I immediately realized that it wasn't bread. It was a warm, wet chunk of something. It felt almost like another tongue resting atop of my own. It was meat. I swear I could even feel it moving slightly, writhing like a slug trying to get deeper into my throat. I panicked and I looked toward the man, but before I did, he whispered into my ear, "The meat that gives life, the spirit, is no help at all. The words that I have spoken to you are of flesh and blood." And like that, I swallowed it. I don't know why, but that's what happened. I quickly ran out of the church and I sped away as fast as possible. I tried to throw it up, but I never saw it emerge with the bile. And it was after that I lost my appetite. I couldn't eat anything for a long time. Every food I tried tasted rotten in my mouth. Even fettuccine alfredo, which was my favorite food, tasted like a slurry of juice that you would find at the bottom of a garbage can. I went to the doctors to try to find a reason, but they simply informed me that there seemed to be nothing wrong with me. So that was my life for a while, eating rotten food that looked perfectly normal. First time I tried my own flesh was accidental. I've always had some sort of a nervous tick whenever I bite my nails. Nothing major, but the fact that I hadn't been eating as well had put me a lot in my mind. So I had been doing nothing but just chewing on my nails. And it was as I was absently-mindedly chewing my nails that I first started to taste it. It had gone to a super upscale restaurant as a treat, and I tried Wagyu steak. What I tasted when I bit into my finger made that slab of meat taste like roadkill. I did catch myself though. At this point, I wasn't ready to just bite off a piece of my finger. It took only 2 more days before I broke the ring finger on my non-dominant hand like a lobster. I drank the blood and poured out the wound like it was the best seafood dish that I had ever eaten in my life. It quickly spiraled after that. At first, I would only drink my own blood, using a syringe to take some out before shooting it into my mouth like a sports bottle. But I was still starving. I needed meat. Just a slice of my bicep was a good fill. The steak knife from my kitchen block sliced through it surprisingly easy, which took me by surprise. I guess that's what a good quality cooking utensil could do. The small amount of fat on my chest was something I could easily part with, so that was an easy cut. Ironically enough, the meat on my belly was also very good. Maybe because it would be ending up so close to home in my stomach. My first organ was a hard job. I had never tried to go to med school, and evidently I wouldn't have succeeded. The kidney didn't even taste that good, and it only tided me over the afternoon. The other organs had varying degrees of success. The appendix was as bland as it was useful. The spleen was pretty tasty, having a rich aftertaste that hung on to my tongue. One of my lungs was delicious, probably one of the best organs I had ever eaten. And it reminded me of a delicious burger after school with my mom and brother. I even tried parts of my lower intestine. Would you believe that? I don't care if it's digested properly, I just love the taste, the feeling of flesh that it brings me. It's the realization that I am delicious, that I am loved, that my body tearfully so beautifully when I rip it apart with my teeth and fingers, that I am good meat. This has been going on for a long time now, and it's been great, but I'm running out of food. I've carved out pieces of my brain and heart, but even now I'm still hungry. I mean, I should be dead by now, but I'm not. I don't even know if I can die. I mean, can meat die? It's still just be flesh in the end. What am I terrified of? But what I'm terrified, though, is what will happen when I run out of food. So I wanted to write this. It took me forever because I only had a couple of fingers and one eyeball, but I wanted to put my story out there into the world. I don't blame the priest at that church. If anything, I'm thankful that he was able to show me how loved I am. But I want to keep eating, and I fear I won't be able to soon. That was I've Been Eating Myself, written by Curses and Boons.